Hello, hello, and welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni, and this is Danny. And for the week of June 1st through June 8th, the sun is in gate 35 and the earth is in gate 5.
So this is going to be a really interesting one because now 35's in the sun, and 35 is the meaning of progress. It's just that we're going to get to see how well it is tempered by gate 5. So this will be very interesting. How these two, they belong together. Every time we do a transit, I want you thinking, these are two, it's an old slogan I'll reference, but these are two great tastes that go great together. No matter what the opposition, no matter how counterintuitive it might seem on once in a while, they go great together.
We'll have a lot of fun with this one. So thank you to everyone who's watching and liking and subscribing. It really helps us out. So let's get into it. Here we can see our mandala view, and the sun is in gate 35, which is the gate of progress. It is a throat center gate. The earth is in gate 5, which is fixed patterns, and it's sacral gate.
It's this notion here, just in this opposition, here we are in civilization, here we just got off of a bunch of individual definition around the wheel as a transit, and we moved into this collective stuff. And where do we go? We go to the two mirrors of each other. 16 is the logical mirror of the experiential 35. But they're mirrors to each other in the collective overall process. I just find that very interesting. So civilization is very interested in getting an individual kick and then getting out the two things that make the most things move. The excitement of 16 and getting enthusiastic and just being all in on something, and 35, the capacity to bring the progress. Now, when we get into the gates and we watch how one tempers the other, we'll be like, oh my God, thank God. It's like we wish gate 5 would get with AI and temper that the way I'll be describing it in a way.
Here we have the sun in gate 35, which is progress and the gate of change. Gate 35, by design, progress cannot exist in a vacuum and is dependent on interaction. Gate 35 is a throat gate, part of collective circuitry. So you can think sharing as your keynote, and it's part of the understanding circuit specifically. Gate 35 links up with gate 36, which is crisis, and the 36-35 make up the channel of transitoriness. Gate 35 is driven by relentless curiosity and high expectations to explore new horizons and the sheer exhilaration of doing it, but not alone. Gate 35 has the voice saying, I feel, and it's usually signifying a desire for change. And it's focused on collecting experiences to learn from them rather than on repeating experiences to master them. Gate 35 has a taste for new experiences and needs to see what or who is on the other side of the mountain, which can keep them healthy and alert.
Yeah, or like over progressed and overstimulated and over desired, and that just goes too far. So this is where humanity is learning to not go too far, because it's keynoted this channel of transitoriness with the jack of all trades, because they've done a little of this and a little of that. And again, back to the mirroring concept. The first thing we do is identify with something and get a foundation of something we can repeat and do over and over and gain this type of repetitive, logical expertise and a mastery. And then once that's safe and sound, the viaducts are moving the water and the streets are moving the commerce, right? It's all working. Then in civilization, now it's time for all the experiences. What if we do it this way? What if we do it that way? What if this? What if that? And so this can really just go too far. I look to the governments of the world and their budgets that only grow. It's sort of, that's this thing. Don't forget its format, growth. Its generative format is growth.
53 is the root format, and gate 42 is the sacral format that is receiving the 53.
And it's an expansion, an expansiveness, a growth. It hungers for it, and it formats everything in this experiential, abstract, collective circuitry. So 35's fundamental attunement that things don't live in a vacuum and is dependent on this interaction. This interaction is the type of interaction that no matter who's following who into the thing, they still have to temper themselves with what's coming up with gate 5. This is where people just jump off of a perfectly good cliff, Oops, the warrior may do that for purpose, right? For individual, unique way. This is just for the experience of it. It is the voice of the pressure that starts down below with two motors. It's so different than the other side with its one motor that then is filtered out through the spleen. That
What do
motorized
you?
energy stops at the spleen. On the
Oh, okay,
left
because
side, 58 would stops and dead ends in that splenic area between the 18 and the 48. That 48 tastes it and be like, I want that energy, and it gets bitter. And 18 is the receiver of it, and it's the challenger. But over on this side, it's all revved up. It's all fully motorized. 41 knows it can hunger for the experience. 30 knows it can cling to that fire. And by the time you get to 36, it sees, oh my God, the progress is at the end. This is the great balancing act of just because I see it doesn't mean I need to have to jump off of a perfectly good cliff. Um, Dude, that was a perfectly good cliff. It even had a guardrail around it, but I noticed you jumped anyways. They had a parachute, we'll assume. So that's what this thing is doing. And I mean, the jack of all trades is the one you would ask. You would ask the 16 on the spleen side, what instrument do you play? And if they play an instrument, we've all heard this analogy. It'll be one or maybe two, right? It'll be a close knit thing. I play the piano. I'm a 16. That's all I play. But I hum, I can whistle. If you give me a harmonica, and I played a few good, guitar chords, and I made a flute go a little bit, and that's it. These guys tried everything. Well, no, I did the drums, and then I bought a guitar, and the drums are too expensive, and then I want keyboards, but blah blah, and they do many things, and it's also human experiential process. This progress is the type of thing that once you see it, not only do you have to have it, but it's laden with the human abstract experience itself. Which, if you look at that tantra of what that was and what that is, that's I mean, that's very involved, we'll say. It's very desirous. It would be the right way to put that. And so it wants to try everything. It really does. And it can lead to incredible mayhem if people don't recognize it simply wants to try everything. So what? I mean, think about that. That's really what this gate and this whole stream are coming to know. 35's big realization that will show up in our lives is, yeah, so what? And that voice of I feel is one of those feelings that shows the wisdom is when they're like, yeah, I've been there, done that. So that's 35 in a nutshell. Very manifestory, very manifestory. In fact, you could have only a 35 in your body graph and be a reflector with just one gate for some reason because all the planets were there, which will never happen. But let's say it was, and you'd act quite manifestory, you know,
just by the nature of
just by
35
the
has that vibe to it, even if you're not a manifester, it just kind of carries a little bit of that edge.
So in civilization, let's try this. Let's expand that. And of course, let's have more war. So when all of this tempers, and let's conquest this area, and let's build it bigger. Let's go to the moon. Let's all of it, you know. I know two other guys made it to Everest, but let's I'm gonna make it there faster or something.
Next up, we have the Earth in Gate 5, which is waiting, and the Gate of Fixed Patterns. This is a fundamental attunement to natural rhythms, waiting as an active state of awareness. Gate 5 is a sacral gate, part of collective circuitry, so the keynote is sharing, and it's part of the understanding specifically. Gate 5 links up with Gate 15, which is modesty, and the 515 makes up the channel of rhythm. Fixed rhythms and tempos give the tenacity to stay true to your own inner rhythms, to stay vital, healthy, and always in the flow. Finding great satisfaction in mundane rituals and routines that attune to the vibrations of all life.
This is such a cool movement. I can thread this like a needle through fabric in an intricate little web. What did we have before when we had 16? We had planning. And so it's right angle cross, guaranteed a lot of support and willpower to do so, and with the sensitivity for that and affection and all the stuff that's just really warm about that tribal energy. And it empowered. I mean, when you got an ego around, everything's empowered to sort of do, right? If decided, if the strategy and authority show up. So that moves into the excitement and the 16, and the 9, focusing and taming all of these things. And then what do? We move straight into it. we were in an incredible individualistic process. We left that in some mixing ground with the tribe and the collective. And now we're all collective. All the gates of this right angle cross are collective. This is consciousness, baby. This is 63 and 64 are on the design side of this. So all the beings born, while this is the opposition for the first few days, obviously, are on the right angle cross of consciousness. And you can see by the reading of gate 5 how immediately it tempers 35. To me, this is the right juxtaposition, like the sun in the 35 and the earth in the 5. When I say the right one that I can get behind and like understand real easily. When it's the other way around, it's like
it feels more natural.
It feels a little bit like, hey, let's flip that around in a few months, would you? And that's what we end up doing, of course. You can see it both ways, because 5 then gets told, hey, stop being a stick in the mud, basically. You must now change the rhythm. 5, actually, look at how important 5 is. When 5's not connected to 15 extremes, where else is it connected in its opposition? To 35. 5 doesn't get a break in its single-celled way, in its fixed patterns, ensuring life lives. These gates, the 35 and the 15, don't make life live at all. I mean, they help empower direction and they might find experiences, but it's 5 that is like, nope, the inner workings of this particular clock portion of our existence inside the cell are got to keep working this way. And that's what it does. So in this juxtaposition, in this opposition, while we're going around the wheel and we're adding in the rest of what is consciousness, gate 5 is saying, pull it all into this one rhythm, and whatever your 35ness wanted to do, the pattern ultimately stops the extreme. Sometimes the pattern will quell the extreme. They do fight with each other. They're an electromagnetic, after all, with 15 and 5. And up here in this opposition, you can't jump off a perfectly good cliff. So however many people did jump off a perfectly good cliff with 35 last year, the number would be 50 times that with no gate 5 as opposition, is all I'm getting at. So it tempers it, and its capacity to hold itself. Notice they use the word rhythm, and it's not the channel rhythm, it's only gate 5. It's because a fixed pattern becomes a rhythm. It becomes the thing that moment after moment after moment is cycling along, ensuring, hey, it works now. The heart beats, the cell lives, the consciousness grows, it's waxing, it's not waning. And gate 5 is the spot where we get to forever be waxing, as long as we allow it. And it will speak. It's generated. So we've got a generated govna grounding the wild horse of gate 35, that in humanity, only in its awake state can it be, easily not destructive. In its asleep state, and its not self state, and a not self mind, it is prone to destruction of various types and various amounts, mundane types too. Don't forget, it's not just talking great big things, just a lot. So that's what gate 5 is doing for this particular juxtaposition. And so that'll be interesting, what to tell people how to live their psychotic life during this 6 days while this is in the sky, right? Because that's a little bit, hey, no, don't, yes, more, no, less, yes, more. That's sort of the voice of this. But coming together, that voice would probably be something that's quite different. So we'll talk about that at the end.
First up, we have the right angle cross of consciousness, which adds the 63 and 64 to the gates 35 and 5 we've been discussing. And these are people who have been there, done that, know all about it, feel like a change, and want you to join them. They're always ready to explore a new way to do things. Then we'll move into the juxtaposition cross of experience, which adds the 22 and 47 to the 35 and 5. And these are people who are influential in externalizing to others that their experience transforms consciousness. Experience is everything. And then finally, we'll move into the left angle cross of separation, which also adds the 22 and the 47. And these are people with the hindsight and grace to see the necessity of living together separately in society by embracing the diverse interpretations of experience which normally divide us. A civilizing process.
Indeed, it is a civilizing process. We lived like mongrels when we truly lived all together, like right next to each other. You
It
know what
gets
I mean?
chaotic.
Yeah, well, I mean, like a dorm living with there's just bunk beds, all right next to each other, literally no separation. Consciousness does not grow without the separation because each one of us is our own little unit, right? We can't grow if I'm just if dude A's face is like 18 inches right there and the other all the time like a caveman
Mhm.
in a cave. It just the consciousness won't be the same. Each person needs to flower on their own. That's why the whole unique individual thing in the first place. I just find it interesting that as consciousness comes into form, we call that progress and we fix it into a pattern. And then we talk about it endlessly through the abstract and the logical. Hey, but what about pressure? A little confusion. Let's ask. A little doubt over here. A little thinking about it. A little finessing. 16 is making me identify with that, and 35 is making me want to talk about it more. And let's experience that. This whole thing just works. And so, at this little nugget of the wheel, civilization said, basically lumberjacks came in. It's like, dude, we're men. I'm going to make this happen. I, the individual. And then a little while later, wifey shows up. She's like, honey. And the cross of planning is there. It's like, and boom, all that yang sort of caves in and starts to turn in a way more yin. We're building again. And before we build, what we need to do here in this last two crosses, coming off of where we were, moving to where we're going in this little spot, the first thing we have to do is figure out a bunch of little details and then advance our consciousness about all of that. Where's the practicality in that? It's in the nine-centered being, the practicality in that is obvious. I mean, it's just obvious. In the seven-centered being, it's like, what? You know, chop a few notes off of that. Makes no, they would say to that. But in our nine-centered way, we're supposed to just dream a little. 64 is the primary gate of initiating the dream world. It comes in through this abstract channel of abstraction, 6447. And wouldn't you know, 6447 shows up here. No other channel shows up here, but 6447 shows up here. So always watch in the movement of the wheel where channels show up as the crosses change into the juxt, into the left angle, and then back into the other one. These definitions become little bridging areas in a way, and you can just see what they're after. So the grand plan was after something, and it's easy to see here that they put this together, and lo and behold, in our building of even our new civilization, in our new way, what are we doing all the time? We're allowing the consciousness to march on while building things. I think that's huge. It's no more just the practical. Put it to you this way: if 63 were in charge of all of that only down that side of the body graph, consciousness wouldn't grow. Consciousness only grows juxtaposed to that. So the whole thing is juxtaposition theory in the first place. So it's ask Albert Einstein; he started it. I just love this movement that goes here. The grace is about to move into rulership at the end of the day. And it's one other line in here is funny. Always at the right angle cross. Always ready to explore a new way of doing things. Well, that's a polite way of saying something a lot else than that. You know what I mean? So use your imagination and dump everything you could possibly think of into that sentence and recognize that's what this version of consciousness is up to. And it's feeding the other three arms of consciousness, guaranteeing that in that arm, working slightly different in that expression of it, that it had benefit of the experience gained during civilization.
Finally, we have our hexagrams for the week. So the sun is going to be in gate 35, which is progress. And in my I Ching book, it is advancing. And the trigrams are fire over earth. The image reads, light comes forth over the earth, advancing. A noble one's own light shines in her character. The light emerging over the earth is like sunrise. Just as the sun appears to be daily renewed and sustained by the earth, so the noble one's light emerges from her character, which is the earth she's made of. Her inner quality, her willingness to give and receive, sustains the shining light in everything she does.
I like the way just the keynotes are lined up. It is fire over earth. Earth is where the experience happens. 35 is the progressing change, which the fires of change, essentially. Fire over earth just sort of makes sense to me.
Then we have the Earth in Gate 5, which is fixed patterns. And in my I Ching book, it's waiting. The trigrams are water over heaven, and the image reads, "The clouds are above heaven, waiting. A noble one eats, drinks, and relaxes with music. A noble one doesn't hover anxiously in the doorway watching the skies. Instead, with sureness and consistency in his heart and fluidity in his actions, he thrives in the present moment. Feasting when you can't cultivate your fields shows confidence, and it keeps you rested and prepared for the moment when you can act. In ancient China, where the ancestral spirits helped to bring better weather, you would invite them to share your meals, revitalizing your relationship with what provides for you."
Constant revitalizing. Little fixed aspects, taming power of the details, small moves in an identifiable pattern. And that's what it does. That's what this gate does. It's its whole object in life. It's supported by a lot of yang energy. To me, gate 5 is the boss of these two gates. If I can measure it in such a dude type way, you know.
No, it makes sense. It's the drum. It's like the steady drum beat
Yes.
that's keeping it going. So there's a formational aspect of Gate 5 because it is fixed patterns. And then like Gate 35 is like being able to progress beyond the fixed patterns. It's like you need the fixed patterns. You need to know how to walk before you can run, before you can jump, before you can dance. You need those fixed patterns to then progress along the way. So it feels very natural, but I understand what you mean. Gate 5 is in charge because it's like the metronome. It's like the metronome that's setting that steady tone so the piano can play something new.
Absolutely. If you have a gate 5 in your body graph, especially in a defined center, you have rituals, you have patterns. If it's in your sun, earth, or your upper planetary placements or your nodes, you wicked have patterns and rituals and things that get irked easily when they get taken out of that. That's part of its power. It's supposed to do that, but it is a collective thing. It is about sharing that. And the whole object of all of this, both of these, is in your partners especially. Don't take it personally. Just truly don't take it. If that's what's happening and you find out that you've just annoyed your gate 5 partner, or they've just annoyed you because you're the gate 5, whatever, being pulled out of your thing, go ahead and experience that. It's just that don't hold it against them. That's just like a confusion or a fear. You're supposed to literally let that just flow through. If you have to pay attention to it later, go for it. Maybe it comes back. Maybe it repeats, right? And it's something you do, dude, I got to deal with this, Go ahead. But especially that first time, second time, watch to see if it goes into a place where you don't care. Because your not self mind is conditioned there. I have one. Moni has one. We don't get rid of it. We put it at bay. The only ones who can ever really get rid of it are the children that don't get it in the first place. So let's not pretend it's not there. It's okay. We can relegate it. And you do that just by letting the first few times go by. This is a time where, please, whatever it is you think your expectation is out of 35, which don't even think of it in terms of 35, just expectations are going to be in the sky. It's going to be formatting our whole way. Gate 5 is almost going to feel like there's a viable pattern and that expectation should take place. That's what the not self mind will want. It will want to set that expectation and watch it drive into place. Don't allow it. Witness how, I don't know if it's going to happen. This is consciousness. We don't know. We find out. We're in a constant discovery mode with this. So I would allow discovery, a little bit of wildness, because that's what's in 35, tempered by the logic of 5, fixed patterns that keeps you alive. So this, I don't know what to tell people to do particularly, except don't take personally your expectations, the ones of others, the things that might annoy you. This is a great time in your consciousness experiment, literally, with or without human time, to recognize the first 5 times someone does something you think you don't like, you practice just letting it go by to find out if the real truth is you really don't care. You just had to train yourself a little bit for a moment. Hey, I play the piano. I can't play every passage perfectly. I play some of them 4 or 5 times in a row, and then I play it. What's the big deal? Playing passages of music with different instruments. That's what we're going to be doing this week.
That's a neat way of saying that. Yeah. So like in terms of what people can do with it, starting off with the earth in that fixed pattern, in that fixed rhythm, and the sun in progress and new achievements, then I would imagine like being grounded in that fixed pattern, in that fixed consistency in the rhythm, right? It's that metronome, and being able to find our footing and our grounding in the steady, stable things. Like, what are your patterns? How are you waking up? Like, what are those like habits that you're partaking in? And like, are those beneficial for you? Are those working out? And maybe reconsider that, or see what new, more beneficial, more healthy fixed patterns you can start incorporating in this week, because it would be a good time to play with that energy. So then the sun can shine that new expression, that progress, that desire that wants to be put out into the world. So this feels very natural. Like, it feels like cool, like set yourself up for success, basically, just to sound a little cliche about it. Like, what are the patterns, what are your fixed rhythms, and what you're doing on a regular basis, and where can we tweak those that will then allow us to really shine in new experiences and new desires that want to make it out into the world.
Let the fixed patterns become the thing that grounds the 35. So this would be a great week to witness what you just said. Which ones seem and feel best and like really work with you the most, and start to recognize whatever other extremes of progress that might come through and change, and extremes of experience that you're inexperienced with so far, potentially, most likely. So it's nervous making, right? Which of those do you really need? The fixed patterns will tell you, hey, when I disrupt this fixed pattern too much, I'm not myself. Your strategy and authority dials you into that. This would be a great fertile spot to practice your strategy and authority, and watch your experiment of witnessing that, with this lens in mind and this energy over us. And you'll see it in others. Those who cope well will do that just fine. And those who are all, broken still and not, you'll see it. I bet we'll see a dividing spot in society a little bit, because it is all shared. We'll see it. We'll see some new flags put down here as well, most likely. But yeah, you said it right. You made me think to say, let gate 5 be the boss, like I said in the beginning. In a way, it's like, no, 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 no. Mostly, you almost did that. Luckily, I only stubbed my toe another inch, but gate 5 stopped it.
Yeah, let it set that rhythm.
Let it set the rhythm.
Perfect. So thank you, Danny. Thank you to everyone who's watching and liking and subscribing. It's really helping us grow, and we'll catch you next week for some more transits.
Absolutely. Much love, everyone.